Hello, everybody. This is the Joe and Bro Snowy Fire Pit show. Because, goddamn it, we set up a fire pit today and it's fucking snowing on us half the time we were here.
I didn't think to look at the forecast that it was going to snow. Not lightly either.
No, not warmly either.
About 2 hours.
It was a very wet snow.
Yeah. But once I'm committed to the fire, I'm committed. I'm going to do it no matter what.
Yeah, my knees are still numb and my shins right now are warming up pretty nicely. Yeah. So, yeah. But anyway, it's a good time. We figured that the traffic is slowing down. We did a fire pit show a couple weeks ago, and I wanted it to be the first video on the podcast on the YouTube show here. And the sound was bad. He was trying to burn out a stump. We set up a fire pit around
that's right.
a stump, so we were closer to the street. You made a point that there's less leaves on the trees now, and also we were near a pool, so all the traffic came by in a weird tinny sound, which really fucked with the audio for some reason.
Which sucked, because I thought that was a really good podcast, I thought.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, we got to recover some of the shit from it. Maybe at some point, at least the topics that we talked about, because we're on a good roll.
I remember a topic or two.
Yeah, but we figured today we'd talk about all about high-level games, because it came up recently on our show that we have. Yeah, a couple of days ago. It came up then, and by the show, I mean the Friday night show with me and Eric and Matt and Greg Christopher and Tim Shorts. And so we were doing the show there, and we were talking high-level games.
You're going to name everybody except Rob and insult him?
Huh?
You named everybody except Rob.
Rob Connolly. Well, I was going to bring him up because Rob was the one talking a lot about it.
Oh, right.
When he said he needed help. We wanted to get more practice or get better at it. And it's kind of like, it's a good point, because you do have to. And I don't think you could run a good high-level game as a young kid, because you don't have enough world experience. And by that I mean a high-level game is not about killing a biggest, newest, toughest monster. It's about world, regional, high-level stuff. There's a lot of politics, a lot of nation building, I think, wars, conquests, and all that. And to know history is imperative for all that.
But that being said, I think there's adults that don't get that either. We've played with people who have been playing, maybe not from a density perspective as much as us, but from a time perspective as long as us, who have DM'd from time to time and would never be able to grasp that concept that you just illustrated. Yeah. And yet, as a child, you tried. We had high-level characters in second edition that were 20 plus, and now at the time I was 2 years younger than you, and however old you were, whether we're teens, young 20s, you had no world experience, but you tried to come up with those concepts. I remember very well sitting in front of these red wizards of Thay and high level talking, and so even though maybe if we look back on it now, if we were flying the wall, we'd be like, wow, we sucked as players and as DM. At least you tried, because you understood that the high level game was involving those concepts.
And what got me there, I think, was the After the Ashes set with Greyhawk. It really let me into an idea, a view of how things could be run at a very high level, because there was a booklet at the Greyhawk Wars, and they talked about what happened in the wars, who did what when, the deception, the lies, the trickery, the bullshit, the real motivations behind, as opposed to what's stated. And it was just such a great freaking book.
Right.
And I thought it was Carl Sargent, one of the best authors ever for D&D stuff. We did it After the Ashes.
Greyhawk was just much cooler After the Ashes than prior to the Ashes.
I agree. It
was very powder puff and fluffy, and before that, but After the Ashes, it had a more gritty flavor to it.
Yeah, and sure. I think Carl Sargent's books did that for the most part for me. Yeah. I wanted to try to recreate that with what we were doing, And I just, and plus I've always been a student, a reader of history, politics, all that kind of stuff, propaganda. All those things have always fascinated me. I did my senior thesis on pre-Revolutionary War propaganda. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was just that it was 45 pages or whatever on that. So it's always been a thing to me to think about. You see the news and it's like it's all bullshit, and so what's really going on and why, and study that, understand power, understand on the high level. So that's where the high level game is,
right? Because
you run out of you're not just a dude in the tower who goes out and kills bigger and bigger things, builds up his money, and then that's all you do. No, that ends after a certain point.
Advanced D&D and second edition, if you wanted your high-level game to be that, you could. Well, there was the depth of opponents in those versions of the game, that far exceeded what exists now. Nowadays, the high-level stuff is dragons, demons, devils, and there's not much else in terms of genres of big, main, bad things, whereas in the older versions of the game, there was far, far more diversity. So if you really wanted to play a high-level game of just dungeon crawling, I think you could. Quite frankly, it'd be boring, ultimately. I like how you do it. And in 5e, it's utterly impossible to play a group of four. Four is a standard, I think, 5e group, 4 or 5, and have any kind of campaign that makes any sense, because a group of 4 or 5 by 15th level can beat everything in the game.
You know? It breaks. They're so uber powerful, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, what I had to do is house rule the shit out of stuff and make it GIMP in some way so that it does make more sense.
And limit me to 2 characters without a healer.
Yeah. Healers? What healer? Where?
Yeah.
Can't find anyone anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, there's ways to go about it, but I mean, but I'm always starting to think about this even on the low level games. Like I look at this is Ray Feist, right? The guy who wrote all the Rift War stuff. I used to be on his listserv, and we talked. This is like the mid to late '90s, all the time. He's very open about stuff. And we would ask him questions about anything, and he'd ask us. And
he insulted me, if you recall.
Yeah, it was perfect. I called you a fucking munchkin, didn't he?
No. I was just, you know how pissed I was when Thomas lost his sword and said the thing, and I'm like, and he became weaker, and I was always annoyed by that because he was just an absolute monster beast. And I think he said, "Oh, he's the guy that brings your brother's the type of guy that brings a 10th level fighter into a 1st level dungeon." What the fuck is that? I'm pissed. You ruined one of your characters. Now you got to insult me. I was really pissed about that. I'm like, fuck him. I ain't reading his books again.
That's awesome. Yep. So anyway, going back to that, his listserv, he said one time, it's a very long tangent, but he says to me one time about he views himself as a writer of fictional historical fiction, something to that effect. In other words, he's a historical fiction writer, right? But in a fantasy setting, right? And I was like, a little weird, dude. I think you just write D&D adventure books. I'm thinking to myself, a little pretentious.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, like, look at what George R. R. Martin does compared to this guy.
Yeah. I mean,
he wrote kid books.
But basically, Feist is, I think the first 4 are the best 4,
Yeah.
But anyway, going forward though, I look at that phrase of I write historical fiction in a fantasy setting as very true to how I try to run the games, right? Because there's always, in a region, right? This town exists within a county, maybe within a region, within a certain area, within a continent, within a country, within a world. It has to be levels and circles of power, and
to make sense.
To make sense, because I don't want a blank slate. I can't do a sandbox world. I could do a sandbox within a world, but I'm going through every continent, major countries at the very least. Like in a Bronze Age game, I got all the continents and islands and everything else already developed, and ideas about who and what they are, and it's sort of deep background affecting what I do, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to do that. And I just like to create shit like that. So I'm writing history of the world, of the region, of the countries, and of the area you're in, and how it all interrelates. And you guys, in the meantime, are dipping into dungeons and going into caves and this and that. And when you come out, stuff is happening around you. Right? That you probably can't affect most of any of it until you get to very high levels. But when you are high level, you affect regions, you affect countries, war and peace. You have a big part in. I think that's the essence of the high level game. It's not about killing shit and taking their stuff anymore. It's about how do you interact on the world level. You're a Henry Kissinger. You know what I mean? You're a Napoleon. What do you do?
But remember, that's not for every player either.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, I feed off that shit and I get into it.
Me too. Sorry, it works.
But if you were playing that, like, let's say we had the old group back that we started this campaign with in 2018.
They'd be sitting there for
listen, it's not like they would hate it.
They wouldn't. Sometimes what do we do? We do 3 or 4 sessions in a row of 3 or 4 hours of role playing each session.
Joe, we've done. I started to keep track at one point when it was 2 months plus of not a combat.
Yeah.
It was just, there was a stretch of time when we were doing all kinds of stuff outside of combat.
8 or 9 weeks.
And it went on. And I never thought, like, by the end of it, I'm like, man, this was fun, but now I want to kill something. And then we went the same distance of, like, non-stop dungeon, not even that long ago, the Giants.
Just fighting.
No, the Giants.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was, someone brought up the 13th Warrior movie on Friday, which was awesome, but that was what it was like. It was Jormungandr and his 13 barbarian henchmen, right?
Yeah.
And just plundering the giant things. And we've gone both, and that ultimately is the nature.
And that was a whole war. Yeah.
It was a whole war. But that's the nature of what you're talking about.
Because that's how the world operates. You got times of peace, times of war. And then when you're playing the high-level game, you're not walking around trying to find an owlbear to get, the
Right.
whatever shit XP and gold he might have,
And you don't always, you can't dictate as a player when you want to do things at that level, when you don't, because sometimes you're just called to action. Yeah. Right? Yeah, because you have to. You've got responsibilities.
Yeah, you have entanglements, responsibilities, obligations, duties. And so basically what you have to do is, shit happens around you, and the Luskin goes to war against Mirabar, and next thing you know, you're
next thing you know, I'm sacking Luskin.
It's like that, yeah. So he leads a barbarian tribe to sack Luskin, but now he's 20th level. He has barbarian tribes that could sack Luskin, right? Right. And so this is it. He started out, he was a fucking bouncer in a shithole bar in Neverwinter, and now he's leading tribes, right?
Well, yeah, we started in the Phandalin adventure, so that was my background as a bouncer. But ultimately, like what you're hitting on, and I think some of the guys talked about how they get frustrated because they feel like they're not great. I think they were saying they're not comfortable dungeon mastering high-level campaigns. And I don't care how smart you are. I don't care if you're an engineer or a computer scientist or nuclear physicist. If you don't have the capability, desire, acumen, what have you, to do what you're doing and to understand relationships between powers, and how people truly behave when they have power, right? Not
you gotta know what a sociopath is, first of all.
I mean, you can, right, but you can DM it like the fairy tale cartoon bullshit and have people caricatures, right? Yeah. But that's not what you do. You have actual personalities.
It's more George R. R. Martin, Game of Thrones, than Shannara books. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's what we're talking about.
Right. This isn't Lord of the Rings, really kind of impossible type personalities. You've got real gritty people with real lives and real concerns. I mean, even let's just take what my wizard did.
I wonder how much the Game of Thrones, because I had read Game of Thrones in the 90s. I wonder how much of that embedded itself in my head as this is cool for D&D, even though it was depressing.
You realize he's never going to finish it, right? He's never going to finish.
He's dying first.
He's got too many other side projects. He actually, all my YouTube guys were hating on the guy because he pretty much came out and said, "Yeah, I know you love those books, but I like other things too." And he pretty much came out and said, "F off, I'm not finishing these." Fucking dick. But
he's going to pull a Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, look at most recently. This has been going on since right around New Year's. My wizard, who is a noble of Waterdeep, was tasked to have what they call the Phandalin Accords, right? That's what we're calling it now.
Mediate peace in the north.
Right, because Waterdeep got out of hand. They took a bunch of territory, and every other power sort of reacted to that. Like, well, if they're doing it, we have to secure our borders because when are they going to stop it? And it just became this cascading domino effect of everybody getting in each other's grill, all from what Waterdeep started. And it was going to... Now, meanwhile, we don't have time to do this because sorry, my daughter's coming out to say goodnight.
My God, it's cold out here.
Put some clothes on, goddammit.
What the hell?
Sleep tight.
Freezing.
Don't lock the door, please, because you'll lock me out. Anyway, we don't have to delete that. That was kind of funny. Yeah. So anyway, the Phandalin Accords, so Trask, my wizard, was tasked with basically mediating and helping them come to common ground because the entire Northwest of Farron's war weary from a war with Dark Elves. We just finished that, and this is starting. Yeah. But we've got these demons. I won't get into a long story. Demons in Hellgate Keep, as much as that doesn't make sense. There's demons in Hellgate Keep, and really we need to be focused on them. And so it was basically a couple months of playtime, which was about 4 weeks of game time of role-playing. Yeah. And understanding. That was actually kind of fun. I actually came up with some outside-the-box ideas to get people to understand each other and agree. And I think there's some things ended up happening that you probably didn't expect.
No, I tried not to think ahead of time of what are they going. I put out everybody's agenda on a country basis or a city basis, based on who rules them and why and what their motivations are. So if you got 7 merchants rule Mirabar, for example, or something like that, what are all their motivations? What makes that go into what they want out of these negotiations?
And not just that, then you've got their ambassador and what are his motivations?
His personal quirks and characteristics, right? Because an ambassador can make a huge difference in terms of who and how they are and what their own personal motivations are, as well as their motivations as to how they're going to serve their country, plus what their own personality is. So you got all that interlaced, and I had like 13 ambassadors, and so you had to sit down and talk to them, get to know them, role play them out,
memorize their names,
index card shit or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you had to do all that stuff just to understand it. So that took me a lot of prep time of thinking, thinking. You know, more thinking than writing, and then finally all poured out.
I think we skipped a week or two while you were prepping for that.
Yeah, I think
that was a lot of work.
Yeah. But I mean, all it was mediating negotiations between powers, right? This is like the a peace treaty of Versailles or whatever. You know what I mean? This is what we're trying to figure out. But that took up months of our time, right? And in weeks and weeks in the game time, and that's a high level game. You're not killing shit and taking their stuff anymore.
You killed a thing or two though while we were doing it. Because in any of your adventures, I know there's not going to not be something going on, to kill.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if there's a wedding. We just had another wedding we had the other night. He's waiting for the hammer to drop all fucking night. I'm enjoying the shit out because there was nothing that was going to happen all throughout the course of the wedding. But there's never been a wedding that shit didn't go down.
My 20th level barbarian, who's basically like an uncle to the person getting married, the girl, the female wizard, who is the apprentice of my other character. And part of this is just meta, because I know Joey as a dungeon master, but part of it's him too. Like, this is his nature. He basically didn't attend the wedding. He's got this Hammer of Thunderbolts artifact type thing, and he can fly around like Thor with it and shit like that. And I just flew figure eights at 1,500 feet on flying bar cap.
Just waiting.
Just to make sure some fucking, like, dragon migs didn't show up. I'd have to shoot down. Like, I knew something was going to happen.
Totally meta was funny anyway.
I didn't show up to the wedding until she went back to the tower to have her honeymoon her honeymoon sex, and I finally relaxed.
Have a beer.
Yeah, I finally could relax at the party.
But something did go down at the end.
Something did happen. I couldn't really,
it was on a world level. It was something that affects a lot of people on a big level in the world that affects nations.
Yeah.
Right.
And now, I think I figured it out this morning when I sobered up.
Yeah, you may have, because all the clues are there if you put it together. But, but the bottom line is that they have something now bigger on a high level that's going on that they may or may not be able to affect.
But at this point, I was in any other campaign, I'd be like, holy shit, this sucks, I'm so fucking scared. But I was like, after it all happened, I'm like, yeah, get in line, motherfuckers. There's a lot of people want to kill me.
It's just called Tuesday.
Yeah, it's like, that's all right, so one more motherfucker who's superpowered wants to kill me. Get in line. I got others.
Yeah. It's like the Ukrainian president.
Yeah, this
it's
guy.
Like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care.
Yeah.
Say what you want about either side, but that guy's a fucking badass.
I mean, it was when you provided a link to a YouTube thing, and it was like, that's what we saw in the sky, and it was scary. But I was like, all right, this is cool, and I don't know how he found that, but it's pretty cool that he did, and it was scary. But then I sat back and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Mm-hmm. If that was your first, is that your first rodeo?
No,
otherwise you'd be shitting yourself. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But it just that's the kind of stuff I have to do though, because how do world events now that the characters can interact with affect other countries, and logically in what way?
Right.
And not a fairy tale way, not a 12-year-old way. Not the way that you read in the news. What's really going on behind the scenes.
Right. Yeah. Right. Not what's on the surface of CNN or Fox or MSNBC, whichever your genre. But you're hitting on the absolute prime point here is what you're doing. Not everybody has a skill set to do as a DM, and if people are struggling with high-level game, it's probably because they're just trying to recreate harder low-level games. And then, like, ultimately, the game will scale as high as you want, especially if you mess with numbers of monsters or create your own monsters. You can, in theory, run a high-level game just like a low-level game. It lacks depth. It lacks
realism.
Realism. And ultimately, like, it gets boring. Yeah. We've gone, like you said, weeks without a fight. Then all of a sudden, I just killed 8 devils and got like 80-something thousand experience, right? Yeah. As a solo encounter. So it's so much less linear than a low-level game where it's like, we did this adventure, because none of it really impacted much, and you could just do adventure to adventure. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, you're the war leader of a tribe. You can't just go off and do your thing. So you're going to have weeks/months and responsibilities of things that kind of keep you input. And then there's nothing better than when it's like, all right, that's done. It's like, now what do you want to do? I'm like, I can do whatever I want now. Yeah. And you've got some time to do what you want to do, which might be, hey, let's fly to Thay and kill their god king. Long story, but that's the cool thing about it is it's a good mix.
It's not that Munchkin. That's just a weird example. Long story.
No. But like in terms of dungeon crawls, we haven't had a hex crawl or a dungeon crawl. Well, I suppose the hill giant and the frost giant thing was a dungeon crawl, right?
Yeah.
But it was more like, once we tripped the alarm, it just became a bloodbath. The dungeon crawl came after we killed everything. Then
it was the longest fight. We had like two sessions at least.
Well, it was my at the time 15th level barbarian and all of his followers, 13 other barbarians.
And you tripped the alarms. Everything came at you at once in a fucking dining room downstairs at Hill Giant.
But we had a good fucking plan, and we fucking annihilated it. But my point is, that could have been a dungeon crawl. But, like, take that out of it, because it didn't end up being it ended up being a big battle royal. When was the last time we had a dungeon crawl? Like, a legit dungeon crawl. It was in Chult, whatever that final dungeon was.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever that was. But, and
you skipped a lot of levels, but jumping in the pit.
We jumped in the pit and flew around. Yeah. But my point is, like, that. What were we, 10th level at the time?
Yeah.
10th, 12th, maybe
12,
we left? So it's like... The high level game, especially in 5e, if you've got a full group dungeon, it just doesn't lend itself to nonstop dungeon crawls because everything just becomes too easy.
You run out of shit to kill. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
The fights are not the problem. The fighting, the enemy, the monster, the big baddie isn't your enemy in this. The enemy is it's about a duel between you and some mastermind somewhere. It's a duel of the wits. It's a power grab. It's behind the scenes shit with somebody you don't see, right? It's that sort of thing. You have rivals. You have foes. You don't have things you're going to kill.
And the joy comes from defeating the foes without having to raise your fist. For example, I'm not going to get into super detail, but my wizard in a former life made a pact with Asmodeus, blah, 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 blah. And he now has these super powerful nether scrolls because of that.
Which you can't read yet.
Which I can't read yet. Well, I can now. I'm 20th level, finally. 20th level on last night.
It means I got to write the fucking
And I rolled a fucking...
now.
And I rolled a 1 for hit points, which sucked. But anyway, I get challenged by this evil wizard from Luskin named Bargle. Now, Bargle... we have to tell the Bargle story is great.
If they don't know the Bargle story, they don't deserve to know the Bargles.
That's a good point.
Fuck it.
Box Wizard.
Go Google Bargle, bitches, if you don't know who
Red
Bargle
Box
is.
Wizard, in that starter example adventure.
Who killed your girlfriend.
So anyway, this wizard who's way more powerful than me.
Alina was hot.
Yes, she was. This wizard who is way more powerful than me, and I was 19th level, which means he was like, in epic levels. And had a stronghold filled with not only his apprentices, but their apprentices.
Host Tower of the Arcane.
Exactly, the Host Tower of the Arcane. So now my wizard is new. He's like new money, right? So he's new power. He's got all this power, but doesn't have a fortified, magically protected stronghold.
Years old.
Right. He hasn't had the dozens of years to create like a magical fortress. He just has his, where he lives. So I'm like, this guy can just show up anytime and kill me.
Yeah.
So
what you could do now, add 70 years of experience in magic items under your belt.
It'd be unstoppable. So I'm like, how do I beat this guy? I can't just knock on his door and pick a fight because I'll have all of his apprentices and all their apprentices. And then I'm like, but I can't wait for him to attack. So, just through role play, I know you didn't think of this. This was not how you designed it to happen.
Yeah.
But we made a pact. I made an agreement. Long story short, made an agreement with like a demigod type thing who lived on our world in Thay. He took over Thay, and somehow, because I had something he wanted, he had something I wanted.
Part demonic allies shit going on there.
Yeah, but I made an agreement with him, and he ended up agreeing eventually, although not for the reasons I tried to get him to agree. And he ended up killing Bargle for me, and tossed his head at the Phandalin Accords. Yeah. My point is, this guy wanted to kill me.
And that changed the geopolitics of the North on me.
Yes.
Big time.
Right.
Didn't know it was happening, but it made sense. Therefore,
And exactly. And so I never had to cast a spell or anything. Yeah. And this guy who wanted me dead, who I probably would have never been able to kill in a realistic way, he's now dead. And I never had to do anything, which is cool.
Yeah, but then there's consequences.
Yeah, of course.
Equal consequences, right? So, there's layers of being fucked.
Yeah.
So, there's always a deal to be made with the devil, and this guy was, devil, whatever. So, there's always levels of deals. How bad they want to get fucked and by who.
But I'd hazard a guess, though, that anyone who's listening to this, whenever you post it, half the people listening be like, yeah, that doesn't sound fun.
I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
you gotta like that. That's the only way high-level games work for us.
With what we're playing, 5th edition. You could play a 1st edition or a 2nd edition game. There's such a depth of monsters and variety.
Just by capping on hit points, honestly. Capping hit points is the huge difference.
Yeah, but I mean, like, my point is, I suppose capping on hit points, but it's just a different game. You had better armor classes and better to attack. It just became this escalating thing.
Yeah.
But the cap on hit points made it a big difference. But yeah, like what you're describing, what I'm as a DM and what I'm describing as a player, some people are into, but and Dwayne, who we play with, is totally into it, right? But not everybody gets it. Not everybody cares.
Or would be a player in it that would be fun for anybody. They wouldn't be a good enough player in that kind of a situation. It would make it bad for everybody. I mean, the DM and the players. It just wouldn't be worth it. It
is the same thing. It's a dungeon master skill to conceive of it, and then there's a certain player who can thrive in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what percentage is out there, but of all people we've ever played with, I think Dwayne's probably the only one who would appreciate it in the way that we're talking about.
Yeah. Rob would. Rob Connolly would.
But Rob was one of the guys saying he struggles dungeon mastering high level
stuff. Yeah. He's run campaigns forever in his 40 years. I mean, in his world, and to get to the high level. But I guess it is a weird thing to think about because, and he's a smart guy. He knows all this shit. But it's hard to implement, I guess, and it's hard to feel like you got your players grasping it, right? So you gotta have the right mix.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Rob might be great at it, but maybe he's dungeon mastering players who aren't latching on, and therefore maybe he's blaming himself. But
I don't know. I mean, no, because these guys we play with, Josh and Ken and Tim, and they are good.
But do they get that part of the game?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Especially, Ken reads more books. He reads 3 books a day, this motherfucker. I can't imagine. So it's like he can take a shit, read a whole book. This guy, but yeah, they're all smart. They're all good. So it's a thing where I don't know. It just you got to have an aptitude and a like for it.
Yeah.
But again, that's our version of a high level game. That's the only way the high level game actually works for me as a DM. It's the only thing that makes sense because everything I'm weird. I have this OCD thing in me where things need to make sense or else I can't have it in the game. They need to make logical sense based on raw sociopathic power grabs, because that's how the real world operates.
But even on a microcosm like a dungeon layout, we've talked about this, I think, before. And I know, or maybe you and I haven't talked about it, but I know you've talked about it on Friday nights. But I don't have as much time to prep as I used to. Yeah. It's like what I DM my every other Friday game that you play in and some others. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'm 100% sandbox and homebrew at this point. So to the extent I can do a Google search and find a decent map that I can throw into Roll20, and I found some gems. Even our starting city, I don't even know what it's called, but it was a fantastic map / picture.
That was a good map. I don't know where the hell you got that.
Yeah, I just Google search coastal town or something like that.
Nice.
But anyway, my point is, you find these maps. I'm like, wow, that's a great map. It just doesn't make sense for what I need right now, but I'm going to save that motherfucker in a folder of cool things for the future.
Right? I got a lot of those, yep.
But
I think we all got a lot of those.
The map has to make total sense to me. The most recent, I had to bail out last Friday because what was going on? My daughter's play. Yeah. But I was prepping during the day, and I needed something sewers. Because remember, you were in the sewers in that border. I don't know how many maps that were good maps of their own right, but didn't make sense for what I was trying to accomplish in the adventure. I mean,
I kick myself. I'm like, I spent 3 hours finding them. I could have drawn the goddamn thing.
I know.
Get a fucking
but there's just something satisfying.
Paper, and just fucking draw it.
No, you're right. You're right. But then like it's so easy when you get a nice map and you throw it in Roll20.
It looks good. You feel fancy.
And you're doing the polygon reveal.
But still, what the fuck,
Yeah. You're right, though. Sometimes it does take enough time that I could probably try.
Yeah, drawing a goddamn thing. Yeah. Even if I used Roll20's draw function, I could have drawn a better map than the shit I found sometimes.
Just the lazy in me is like, man, I clicked 6,000 times over 3 hours, but I got a good goddamn map, and I didn't have to draw it, so fuck you.
Yeah. Then there's like Incarnate. You can use Incarnate and draw easy things.
I really got to get that.
Really
I don't have it.
$20 a year. That's all it is. It's honestly the best thing for drawing anything.
Yeah.
I drew the Phandalin shit. Speaking of Phandalin, we started a new game today, and this is funny because coming after my podcast, my first YouTube show, other than my intro one, where I talked about if I had to go, between in person or online, I'd have to go online. If it was one or the other for the rest of my life, I'd have to go online because more versatility in players. But that being said, today we started an in-person game. It is me and my brother and his 2 daughters. It's funny how that shit worked out because I always pictured, because we're boys.
And one of my daughters, quote, friend.
Yeah, boy, yeah, friend, guy friend.
Right.
So basically, and they're 14. So the funny thing is that I would have figured, Matt and Sean. You know what I mean? It's like that. I would have figured them.
Nope.
You know? No.
Sean thinks we're nerds, and Matt's just a brooding 17-year-old who doesn't want to do it.
It's never happening. So yeah, he's not like us growing up, as you said. He actually is popular. He's not a nerd, so he has friends.
That's the difference. Is he actually played with us when he was? Let me think. We started in 2014, so he would have been 9.
Yeah.
He started playing with me, you, and other adults who at the time were in our mid 40s or what have you. And he was into it. He was.
Yeah.
And you know he wanted to stop because it was summertime and he wanted to hang out with his friends more.
Yeah, on Saturday night. Who'd have thunk he want to hang out with his friends on Saturday night rather than a bunch of 40-year-old guys?
But therein lies the
dice.
difference. He has the aptitude and the intellect and all of that.
Yeah.
He just has what we didn't have, is a fucking social life.
Yeah.
So, it's
gonna run away,
it's a supply.
run away.
It's a supply and demand thing. He's got a plenty of supply of social life, and therefore zero demand for zoning out in his fantasy world.
I asked him the other day because I was wondering because you were a taskmaster on him. Make sure you know this. Make sure you do that. You're like a little.
I don't remember being that bad.
I was like, give a fucking kid a break. But anyway, I asked him. I said, Matt, the other day when we were starting getting prepped for this game tonight, I said, what? Did you quit because your father was busting your balls, or did you quit because you just legit had other things? He goes, no, it was like 100% other things he wanted to do, and he's football or some other shit, Like, I've always wondered, I've always wondered if, like, because you gotta like wean a kid into shit. You know what I'm saying? So how much leeway do you give? That's one thing I struggled with today a little bit.
2 hours in, you were like, tough shit, you said it, that's what your role is.
That's what your role is, yeah.
Yeah, you think I'm a dick? And you're like...
That's it. I mean, basically, the two daughters were all playing. and how many times do you have to tell the kid?
She rolls her, she's got a plus 6 to
attack.
attack, and she'd roll a 13, and she'd look at Joey and go, 13. And I'm like, Natalie, you're plus 6. Oh, okay.
And then it's
let me get my calculator.
And then
it's 19.
And then it's, well, what dice do I roll? What dice do I roll?
She rolled an 8-sider attack once.
And even you tell her you roll a 20-sider. I saw her after like the 19th time. I said 20-sider, add your attack bonus. All right. So, Jesus Christ. So we're sitting there like, she picks up an 8-sider. I'm like, motherfucker, she's picking an 8-sider. So she rolls.
She was rolling her damage.
An 8-sider. Yeah, she rolled her damage. She rolls an 8-sider, rolls a 6, and you say, no, that's the 8.
Which is good for a fucking 8. Except it's not good for a 20.
It's not for an attack roll. So she rolls the 8, and you're like, Natalie's the wrong dice. I say, tough shit. It stays 8 plus 6. You missed.
That was 2 hours in, and he's saying I was a dick to my son.
Like, how many times you got to say?
Listen. And as normal, I was a 20 fiend. I was rolling. Every time I rolled a 20,
you were like 3 natural 20s. You cheating fuck.
Listen, the dice are the dice.
Yeah. It'll come too fast because I'm 9 feet across the table to see the dice.
Oh, bullshit. No, I was keeping an eye on that shit. So anyway, I rolled. Every time I rolled a 20, Joey says, "Okay, guys, you had the house rules, right? What are the 3 options for 20?" And of course, it's like it always is.
I have the same 3 options forever.
Yeah, you roll twice, or you roll once and double it, or you take the complete bitch pussy move and just max your damage. Because that's the safest thing to do, but it's a pussy move.
Yeah.
That's a pussy. I've never done that. So anyway, I like to roll twice. Anyway, those are 3 options, and every time Joey would be like, guys, what are 3 options? I think one of the kids got something once.
Yeah.
And then the next time I rolled a 20, you did the same thing, and I think...
It's only 8 pages of house rules. Is it too much to fucking ask?
No, and
Come on.
So I don't think
I
Natalie
even pared them down to 8 pages.
Natalie didn't answer the question.
question.
Natalie gets nervous still. Once you put her on the spot, she just freezes. She knows, and she knew at least one of them. I think.
Hell yeah, I think so. She knew probably 2.
Yeah, but she couldn't when you went to pressure on. So all 3 times rolled a 20. No one. I don't think anyone got all 3 of them ever.
No, yeah. And finally, when it came to her time, she actually rolled a 20. After having gone over the house rules of what do you do 4 times.
After I rolled it 3 times.
Yeah. It was like, another kid rolled a natural. So I'm like, all right, what are the options?
I don't know.
I was like, what do you don't know? We just fucking went over it. I said, Natalie, you can only do a crit of the 3 if you tell me one of them.
It was right about then I got my Coors Banquet.
Here we go.
I gotta numb myself for this shit.
Because that affected your guy.
Listen,
you're in a combat.
I will not have dumb play kill my characters. I'll sacrifice the fuck out of them. They're my daughters. They can roll up new characters next time. I was crawling through that fucking hole, and my dwarf came right behind.
Yep.
I saw the writing on that wall.
They're getting swept out.
Yeah.
This is the first
Swept
cave
out.
adventure, basically.
Yeah,
guys,
the guy releases the stream, and you were like, I piss on you.
I figured it's too obvious. I don't want to.
I'm like, I don't think that's in the adventure.
Yeah. So basically, it's where they released the Kraken.
It's
where they released all the two dams they have up there as their guard on the Phelan adventure, the first encounter in the caves. And I was like, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say release the dam, unlock the dam that floods them out and kills them.
Right. I piss on you.
So the goblin's like, release the piss. I piss on you, or something like that. So,
and I played this adventure 4 years ago, so I had to act like I didn't remember that there was a flood coming.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to hang around.
I didn't want to give you the reason to not have to act meta. I wasn't going to say release the water, flood them, kill them, flood them out.
Although, that being said, we played this 4 years ago. I never knew there was two floods. We must have killed.
You did it fast.
We must have killed some dudes that the second one never got released. Then the second flood came, and I fucking my dwarf was like, "Fuck these guys! They're gonna get me killed." The healer,
his own daughters and the kid, by these guys.
One of the characters called the healer not a team player.
Yeah.
And this is the healer just fucking took her from 0 points to max after the second fight. She's like, yeah, he's not a team player. I'm like, bitch, I just fucking basically resurrected you.
And he's summoned his daughter here.
And now I'm talking to my daughter. Like, I'm not a team player. What the fuck is going on?
Jesus Christ. And who bought the fucking soda you're drinking?
Yeah, exactly. You like those fucking potato chips and onion dip? I'm a fucking team player. How much money do you think I got laying around that's not taken up by education for you? Here I am getting wrapping real life into D&D. But it was interesting. It was actually, here's one thing that impressed the shit out of me and this is something that you always pride yourself on, is the ad-libbing. What do you call it? What do you call the acting, the something acting?
But when you just spontaneously act, what the hell is it? Improv.
Improv.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I really enjoy that.
I was shocked, and please, now granted, she's in the play, and she was the lead in the play, so she knows how to do that. But seeing in action was cool because. She's everybody's introduced themselves at the bar because that's where all first level adventures start.
I'm not going to start anywhere else but a bar.
And someone asked where my dwarf is from, and I said Gauntlegrim, and she's like, "Oh, I have a second cousin from there," and I'm like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, that's rolling with it.
All right,
out of nowhere.
Now we're going. This is cool.
Good. Good shit.
And did some shit too. My daughter's friend, who's a boy, you went to the bathroom. You're like, all right, everybody, you've all know each other's name. Now start talking.
They all introduced themselves, and it happened to coincidentally coincide with me having to take a massive shit.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, all right, you guys talk amongst yourselves because you're now introduced, and my NPC who introduced you is out of the picture.
Right.
I'm going to take a crap.
Right.
And I'll come back in a few minutes and you'll figure out. So stay in character and talk amongst yourselves.
So Trick, this kid, I should stop. Yeah. So he all of a sudden starts slurring. And he's pretending to drink, and all of a sudden, he's a drunk guy at the bar.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm like, shit, this kid's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and he's playing a mage with a background of sage, but he's doing this thing, and I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm drunk. I'm like, all right, cool. So he did that thing. I think Natalie got a little, Natalie's the girl at the play who's in the ensemble always, and as much as she thinks she's having fun, her face looks like she's not having fun, right? Like you see on
terrorized.
Yeah. Whereas Vanessa is just, she's a natural drama queen.
Yeah.
And everyone. So
a diva.
Yeah. So Natalie froze at times. Although it wasn't that she wasn't loosened up. Sometimes she just didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
But the other, and she'll come around.
Yeah.
She will. I think she will. But the other two, it just came more natural.
When she gets the role of it. Yeah.
Yes. But the other two, it was a natural thing. They started. Just going off with their stories. I'm like, all right. And Vanessa, of course, had a little bit of a dramatic background, which I know you hate.
She was all right, though. All kinds. She was like, wrote a short story about her fucking background.
At first, I started rolling my eyes because I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, you're on some grand quest. But actually, it wasn't. No. It ended up being pretty good.
It was pretty creative, too, I got to say.
It was.
And
it tied in and it sort of made sense.
Yeah. No, it was good. Of course, dramatic, like a 14-year-old girl's would be.
My parents were killed by a mysterious monster.
Oh, street
I became
fighters.
a street fighter. And then I joined the army. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you've got quite a life. That sounds like
you should be 9th level already.
That sounds like a fucking movie on Showtime, I think.
It's good though. It's fun. It was a good session. I think we did good. I mean,
it was better.
Some tactical mistakes, a little bit there, But yeah,
tactical mistakes, as in I'm gonna just take 2 rounds off while they're fucking throwing javelins at me.
Not react, not do anything.
Like you're sitting around like, all right, well they're throwing javelins again then.
They were so confused. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
They were like stifled to like paralyzation.
Meanwhile, my character climbing through that fucking hole.
He was like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of Dodge. Yeah. So it was interesting though. I think it worked out well.
It was a far better time than I expected because the last time we played was a fucking Joey. I think 4 years ago maybe.
Yeah. With the girls.
And it was me, my 2 girls, my son, who doesn't have the attention span by a long shot. So let me think. They were all 10, and my wife. Who was the absolute worst of all of them. So in every player group, you've got the guy who tracks experience, the guy who tracks treasure, the guy that does the mapping, and the guy that does the notes. You want to recount stuff.
Yeah.
And my wife decided she was going to be the note taker.
You have to whisper.
Yes, I do. You have no idea.
She's 150 feet away and sleeping.
No,
You're
you have no idea of the powers.
Like she's around the fucking corner.
No, anyone who's married understands why. So anyway, she was the note taker.
You're still whispering.
Yes.
Bitch. Pussy ass
But she wasn't there's notes, and then there's writing down everything that 6 people say.
Fucking court stenographer mode.
She leaned towards the ladder. And she was writing so furiously that every time it was her turn to do something, she had no idea what the fuck was going on. Because all she was doing, writing shit down. Yeah. And I'm like, Jen, what the fuck are you doing? Just stop writing so much shit down. She well, I'm the note taker. Yes, just take a fucking note.
Yeah.
So she's doing that, and I'm getting pissed. And then my son Sean, who's just acting like a fucking belligerent cocksucker, he starts like a shithead. In fact, it got so bad, my wife's character killed my son's character. She fucking killed him outright. Right. And then he stopped playing. And then poor Natalie, who is the shy one, her character dies. She starts fucking crying.
Oh, Jesus
I'm like,
Christ.
what the fuck are we gonna do now?
I had to come up with some bullshit why she's alive.
Yeah.
Or else she'd hate me for life.
Yeah. I was like, holy shit. What did we do? But before sessions or so, and we fucking gave up.
If that.
I think maybe it was.
That was Mensa Basic.
Was it right? It was Redbox.
Yeah, it was.
Was it right before
Basic.
COVID? Is that why we stopped?
Yeah, no, probably.
No, so it couldn't have been 2 years ago.
Yeah,
she's 12 years old crying because her character died.
Jesus Christ.
But that was a fucking disaster. We started 11 a.m. I was drinking beer by fucking 11:10. It was like, fuck, man.
Yeah. Now today was much better. Today was fun. I think it's going to stick too. The kids seems good. I mean, the girls seem they like it.
I especially enjoyed how the daughter, who's the friend of this boy, when I quote unquote friend, I think they both have crushes. They both have crushes on each other, but like neither one has the balls to say something to the other.
I'm glad because if they got together and broke up, we can never have the group would fracture.
Well, that's a good point.
So now we got a group. As long as there's this flirtation, there ain't nothing
but
gonna
she
happen.
sits across the table from him, and my other daughter,
this is our first session.
Who loves the attention. She sits next, and I'm like, I think she's flirting with the kid. And I'm looking at my other girl, and she's giving her eyes. I'm like, shit.
Yeah, it's going down.
Some shit's going down today.
Inter-party attack's going to happen in a minute.
At one point, of course, they're both wearing, tiny shorts, because that's what girls wear nowadays. So Vanessa stands up to show that she was walking in the classroom one day. Now, she got stabbed inadvertently by a pencil, which, of course, is not lead, it's graphite nowadays. Back in our day, we got actual poison in our shit when we got stabbed by a pencil.
We gotta make a fucking saving throw. And like
this motherfucking lead piece thing in her leg is just below her shorts line, and she's showing this kid, and I'm like, I want to say, sit your fucking ass down. Yeah. And I look at my other daughter, and she's looking at her like, sit your fucking ass down, because that's my friend. And I'm like, here we go, man. This is going. This is going to happen. Yeah. It was funny how it's clearly one of my daughter's friends, but the other daughter wanted to get some attention from it. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. What the fuck is going on here? We got multiple
I just want to roll
levels.
dice. I'm just trying to keep their attention.
Yeah.
We banned cell phone. Well, actually, we have to ban it because girls coincidentally did some bullshit that Jen took their phones from them today. So we didn't have to deal with cell phone bullshit either.
Their room wasn't clean by the expected time. Right. Therefore, you lose your shit.
Yeah.
You have no idea how close they came to getting banned from D&D today. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and I'm hearing Jen go, you got 5 seconds or else we can't play D&D. I'm like, what the fuck? Because I'm saying what the fuck with a mouthful of toothpaste. I'm looking forward to this shit. I'm like, girls, cut this shit. I want to play D&D. Getting pissed, not because you're doing something wrong, because I want to play D&D. They're fucking up my shit.
I'm all prepped. I had to get up early for that shit.
You fuck up my Sunday?
Yeah, fuck that shit. Oh God, what a difference! You don't get that on Roll20.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. And listen, you know me. If character sheets, paper character sheets are fine for low levels, but I need an Excel shit when I'm high level. I can access shit real quick. Yeah. With all the monitors and stuff.
Yep. No, I like that. It's fun, face to face.
I printed a character sheet for the first time. I looked at my just because I don't remember the last time.
Out now too. I noticed.
Look, that's that Excel shit. It's really fine print.
Yeah, no shit.
But so I because I printed character sheets yesterday to play today, I was like, man, when's the last time I printed character sheets for my 2 high level guys? They were both 15th level at the time. Yeah. Now they're both 20th. Yeah. It's probably been a solid year because I used to as I level, I would just go to the Excel, update their character, print it, put it in my binder. Yeah. At one point, I just fucking stopped printing it. Yeah. It was 5 levels ago.
Yeah. Well, we started doing Roll20 because of the COVID. We weren't doing it.
But I mean, I was still keeping up with levels on general principle.
The COVID. I just said it like an Irish woman says.
The COVID, the cancer.
The cancer, like an old Irish lady. Yeah.
But I mean, I just gave up. I'm printing it after a while. So I ended up printing my 20th level sheets and put them in their little folder.
Yeah. That's fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun thing. It'll be like a Sunday thing, as long as everyone's able.
Every other.
Maybe every other. Who knows? What'll come out?
And I'm retiring from baseball, so that won't be in the way.
Good. Yeah, but it should be fun, though. I'm looking forward. I think they're liking it so far. I mean...
They did. I can tell they liked it.
Yeah. So,
we were a bit hard on them at the end because they chose to do nothing for 2 rounds and almost got me killed. But I think they get the message. They got the message. Like,
as
listen,
I said, you learn your
I don't
lesson.
care if you make the wrong decision. Don't make fucking no decision to get my ass killed.
Yeah, you stand there taking 2 javelins to the face.
Yeah. And I mean, God, 1 fucking sleep spell and that encounter was over.
I know.
And then 1 more sleep spell in the next room, and then the fucking adventure was over. Yeah, think about that.
A good chunk of it. Though, you would have avoided what you had to do now.
Oh, I know where the wolves are and Clark. I know where. I remember that wolves. We actually, when we played this 4 years ago, we released the wolves. The ranger did. The wolves went out, and then we took a shortcut to the boss fight and killed Clark at the beginning.
Yeah. Up the boot chute.
Yep.
The garbage chute.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that this time.
Don't do. Yeah, just don't. As long as you don't give them any clues that they know you did it, but don't remind them of it, right? And don't play it like you know anything.
They would have never known I played this before. Because if they did, I wouldn't have stood down that fucking river.
Yeah, I know.
I knew it was coming, but I was like, where can I
Can't avoid it, though.
How can I position myself so I don't get hit in this shit? But and I remember there was a shortcut to the boss fight, and I told you this after we were done playing that module, I downloaded that PDF and I read it. So I also knew that there was a chance to bargain for his life, right? And when we had 2 out of 5 characters in 0 hit point land, and 1 with 2 hit points, and my 2 characters at full, I was like, the only way we're going to save the day is if I take advantage of the fact that I know this adventure and try to bargain with these dudes because I knew they would. And I also know,
which is not only just that I know adventure; it's a logical thing to do. You're in a shit situation.
We couldn't have won a fight.
No.
Therefore, it's time to bargain.
Yeah.
And I actually bargained away money that wasn't even mine.
Yeah.
It was this guy had it to either way. But it was like I had to think of something because I didn't want a TPK on session 1.
Yeah, exactly. Never come back.
Right.
Yeah. No,
it is fun though. I'm going to be honest with you. I take no less enjoyment from knowing. I mean, I also don't have the maps memorized or anything like that, but I know the adventure. I don't take any less enjoyment for having known it because playing my daughters over circumvents all that, watching them enjoy what I enjoyed. You know,
I'm gonna poke them now that they've had 1 session under their belt. I'm gonna say, okay, before you say anything, pause, take a breath. I'm gonna say, what do you want to do, Vanessa? What does Gimli want to do? Mm-hmm. That kind of shit, right? So it's because one's playing Gimli and standard dwarf like Gimli, and the other one's playing a Legolas but a female. She called herself Legolas, right? So
Legolas, it's fucking brilliant.
They're watching Lord of the Rings lately, so they just finished it.
We just finished today.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool though. It's fun. I mean, because my first character's name was fucking Gandalf, probably. I think. But
no, Joe, you don't remember that? He was Gandalf, then you read the Feist books, and you changed the name to Macros.
Yeah.
This motherfucker. I did the same
Not
thing.
Pug, Macros.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
My Ranger's name was Aragorn, changed to Isildur, and then it changed finally to something I made on my own.
Yeah,
Olwen.
Olwen, that's right.
Olwen, yeah. Olwen Tallbow, yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, you change our fucking characters' names for fuck's sake.
It's funny, kind of cool, because they're taking names from the same source as we did.
Yeah, I mean, I had a...
They haven't read the books, but one of them is.
I had a second edition assassin named Devos.
Yeah.
Then I read the Belgariad. His name changed to Silk.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Why, how is that even allowed? Oh, yeah, you have a new name.
God. We should 49 minutes. I got to take a piss.
That's it. So do I. That's funny.
All right. Rather than hear us piss, guys, we'll let you go.
Peace.
Thanks for listening. Take it easy. Bye.